as we speak. Those 171 ballots are not included in the 116.
That's right.
And we don't know who those people voted for.
That's correct.
Now, Fairfax County tends to be a Democratic county. We would think, based on other people in Fairfax County, that might pull in a few votes from Mark Herring.
Exactly.
But we won't know. Those votes will be counted tomorrow.
Tomorrow. You have anybody who had a green envelope, and one of our concerns as the Democratic Committee is this was a long weekend. This was a holiday weekend. People may be gone.
It's Veterans Day today, and happy Veterans Day to all the veterans.
And up until noontime on Friday, anybody who signed one of those cards designating the Fairfax County attorneys to represent them, the Democratic Committee attorneys to represent them, could have left on vacation thinking they were done. And they don't know yet because they haven't been here. They haven't answered their phone. They haven't gotten people knocking on their doors.
So folks who are watching this program right now, who cast a green ballot, cast a provisional ballot, there's still time till tomorrow at noon.
10 to 1, actually. They have to 1 o'clock.
Get up early tomorrow. And they go, what, to the Fairfax Government Center?
Fairfax Government Center.
And make sure your vote is counted. If there's any race where your vote will make a difference, it's this race. There are other races you vote provisionally, you can go to sleep knowing it's determined. This is a race where your vote could still make a major difference in the race.
Exactly right.
Of the 493, how many have we contacted? How many? I'll tell you what, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to know how many people have actually been contacted, how many have gone down to the Government Center. My impression is people are taking this pretty seriously, but I want to find out when we come back. If you want to call in and join this discussion, we encourage you to do so. 571-749-1166. Ask any questions you like. Tell us if your vote was counted. Be back after this.
I need a job.
Necesito trabajo.
I would like to speak English better.
Me gustaría hablar inglés mejor.
I want to be a U.S. citizen.
Quisiera ser ciudadano de los Estados Unidos.
For over 35 years,
Por más de 35 años,
the Hispanic Committee of Virginia has been serving our community.
el Comité Hispano de Virginia ha estado sirviendo a nuestra comunidad.
Job training and placement,
Capacitación, ayuda para conseguir trabajo,
education for children and adults,
educación para niños y adultos,
immigration, naturalization, and medical referrals.
ayuda para los procesos de inmigración y naturalización y orientación sobre médicos
Are a small part of what we do.
son solo una pequeña parte de lo que hacemos.
For help, information, or to volunteer,
Para ayuda, información o para ofrecerse como voluntario,
contact the Hispanic Committee of Virginia,
comuníquese con el Comité Hispano de Virginia,
helping everyone participate more fully in American society.
ayudando a todos a participar plenamente en la sociedad norteamericana.
Hey, Lena, where's yours?
Would you notice if you were missing half your kidney function? According to the National Kidney Foundation, 20 million people have chronic kidney disease, and 20 million more may be at risk and not even know it. Anyone with high blood pressure, diabetes, or family history of chronic kidney disease is at risk. Early diagnosis is vitally important. To get the whole story, talk to your doctor and visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org or call for a free brochure. Because when it comes to chronic kidney disease, you might not know the half.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. I am your host, Marc Levine. Sitting to my left is Bettina Lawton, the host of Inside Scoop Virginia. Sitting to her left is Mark Greidinger, who's with the Fairfax Democratic County Committee. We're all lawyers, but I guess, Mark, you're the one who's most closely, you've been there, well, maybe you have too, Bettina. I don't know. Have you all both been there every moment of every counting?
I think between the two of us, we have.
You probably have every moment. What's the atmosphere there like? We've seen on the web there was an allegation that the Republicans took the Democrats' tables, and then someone filmed the Democrat taking it back, and a bunch of people are writing some really nasty stuff on the web. I guess that's not a surprise. I've seen nasty stuff too. But I've also seen on the web a discussion that, apart from a couple activists here or there, that the people at the top are taking it very seriously. The Republicans and Democrats, at least according to most of what I hear, are working together civilly, professionally, and getting the job done. So apart from a couple tiny little incidents, I hear mostly compliments on both sides about both officials. I want to know if you agree with that assessment.
I do agree with that. I think that people really recognize how important this canvass is. That's what this is called, is a canvass of votes. people recognize how important it is. And except for a couple of little instances, I think that it's gone pretty well.
Mark, you
what do
agree?
you think, Mark?
I think that everybody over at the Government Center is a little bit tired.
I'm sure.
Because it's been a very long election.
Right.
It's very long.
But today there was a atmosphere of professionalism. There wasn't any conflict that I saw between the Democrats and the Republicans, and I think things were going smoothly and very well.
There were 170-odd provisional ballots that were accepted for counting. Was there any disagreement over which ballots should be counted? Where Republicans said, don't count this one, or the Democrats said count that one, or they pretty much agreed, all right, overseas person, this person's counted, wrong precinct, this person isn't counted?
The way that it was described to me is like a football field where you're taking off both sides. So the easy acceptances are done, the easy rejections are done, and now they're getting down to the ones that are more difficult.
So the 170 accepted and the 140 rejected were largely because no one disputed those. The last 130 or so, that's the hard, 180, those are the hard stuff.
They're getting to the harder things. The people, some of the folks, and some of them you can look and say, does this person, do we count their vote? Whether they come in or not, are we going to count the vote? The difficulty is you don't really know which ones those are. So if you really want to protect your vote and make sure that your vote gets counted, you need to show up. And you need to give your story, and that's what we say. We have lawyers such as Mark and myself there for all the Democrats. So when you come in to the Government Center, there's a big table with Democratic signs on it, and there's a big table with Republican signs on it. You choose what table you want, and one of our lawyers will walk you through and say, here's what the process is going to be, and why did they tell you you had to vote provisionally? Okay, here's the kind of thing. You were overseas, this is what they're going to want to know, to try and sort of take the mystery out of the process and help the people through the forums and the meetings.
Mark, how many people have shown up so far?
I think that over the last couple of days we had something like 100, maybe a little bit more than that.
100 of the 493 provisionals.
Yeah. Right. I think total from the very beginning that they started was 136 people have shown up.
Wow. So that's
45
about almost
showed up today.
A third of the people. Now, when they come in, does it help when they tell their stories?
Absolutely, especially in situations where, for example, the rolls might have shown that they had already voted when they showed up at their precinct. Turns out that sometimes the election officers indicate that a relative, somebody else in their household, had voted, and they show up.
John Smith Sr. votes, but John Smith Jr. hasn't voted.
Exactly.
Right?
And the folks in the precinct might recognize these people because they live in the same neighborhood, but they can't let them vote except provisionally because of a change in law that happened this past year. So they fill out the provisional ballot envelope, and they get to tell the board, and the board gets to see them indicate. Sometimes they bring their relative with them and show that this relative who voted, she wasn't checked off, but I've had to vote provisionally, and apparently I was checked off when she voted. There's also some problems that happen when people don't fill out all the blanks on the provisional ballot envelope, and this gives them an opportunity to get all those blanks filled out so that everything is solid and you get 3 votes from the board in favor of making sure that that vote counts.
Okay, so 140 people have showed up. 310 ballots have either been accepted or rejected already.
Right.
If someone shows up and their ballot has been rejected, can they argue that it should come back, or is that pretty much done?
They could certainly argue it. It shouldn't really happen if it was that clear. I mean, you've got some of the things that are.
So 180 are left to be adjudicated. These are the hard cases. Of those 180, those core 180, and remember, in an election where one candidate's up by 116 votes, 180 votes, yes, could swing the election.
Absolutely.
How many of those 180 have shown up? Do
well,
we know
none.
that number?
None.
Zero.
None of
them. So everyone that
showed
up got their vote adjudicated,
yes,
one way or the other.
One way or the other, the decision has been made. Now, they have not been opened.
Right. We don't know who they voted for.
We don't know who they voted for.
But we know whether their vote is going to be counted or not. So the 180, I assume the Democratic Party's calling them, the Republican Party's calling them. Hello, we want your vote. They're probably getting 20 calls a day, right? We know who these people are.
Actually, we don't know who these people are.
No.
The problem is that what the state party has said is we can't be told the reasons why an individual voter voted provisionally. And the meetings where these provisional votes are being adjudicated are closed. So what we have to do is
Wait. Closed meetings to determine what, if these provisional ballots are determined on the basis of the law, why can't they be, and we don't know what the voter voted, we don't know who they voted for, so we're protecting the sanctity of the secret ballot. Why can't these meetings be open to find out why we don't want them to be inconsistent. We don't want them to say, okay, Joe Republican, you were overseas and you can vote, and Joe Democrat, you can't. Why wouldn't these meetings be open?
It's just a matter of Virginia's state statutes that indicate that it's supposed to be a closed meeting.
Why?
Well, they look at it as a privacy issue. That
somebody voted provisionally? I'll tell you what, I'll make a deal with them. Don't give the name out. Can they do that? I guess not.
They actually, when they review them,
adjudicate the circumstances, because you don't want two voters in similar circumstances to be treated differently. That's just not fair.
And they don't know the name of the voter.
They don't.
No, they don't. The voters come in. You'll be given
then
a number.
There's no need for secrecy. Number 43. That's all we're talking about.
Right.
But when did this law change to make it secret? I'm curious. Do you know that, either of you?
They are working on changing these laws and do change these laws virtually every year. And we're challenging some of these laws because we feel like we should be given not only the names of the people who vote provisionally, but the reasons why, so we don't have to bother the folks that we know are going to be approved anyway.
So now wait a second here. When I said that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are calling these 180 people, you don't know their names.
No, we are calling everybody. 483 people, 493
So you
people.
do know the names of the 493 people.
Yes.
You just don't know who's in that 180 batch.
Well, we don't know exactly. We don't know who it is because we don't know who they adjudicated based on the records, whether the person
Because the adjudication is based on a number.
Yes, and so we have no idea. So we have called everybody.
So who's in the room with the adjudication? One Democratic lawyer, one Republican lawyer, and the state board.
And the three
county board.
The three people of the county board, two Republicans and one Democrat. But the Democratic lawyer, and who is that, by the way, that's doing
John
that?
Farrell.
That's John Farrell. He feels that they've been fair within the board so far, at least.
As far as I know, we've not heard.
We've both talked to him. So even though it's weighted, and the reason it's weighted, I believe, is because if the governor's a Republican, it's 2-1 on every election board, which means that next year, when Terry McAuliffe is governor, all the county boards will be 2-1 Democratic.
Well, actually, there is a delay. They have terms, and so you've got to wait for the term to expire, and I think it's about a 1-year delay before we'll take back over.
So in the 2014 elections for Congress, there'll still be those same boards?
There'll still be Republicans.
Huh, I didn't know.
But in the 2015, we should have Democratic ones. But most importantly is the State Board of Elections will go Democratic, so that you'll get it better across.
Does that happen right away, or does that again wait another year?
That might happen right away. I'm not sure if they have terms there or they're just considered state employees.
Okay.
I don't know.
But so far, there hasn't been a lot of major problems. Now, Fairfax isn't the only county that's got provisional ballots. Right. Every county, every city in Virginia has provisional ballots. Fairfax got a lot of media attention, I suppose, because of the one in Annandale that messed up.
Well, those were not provisional.
Right, those were regular ballots, and the machine misfired, didn't count the votes right, and that was 2,000 votes or so that were not counted. And that was true in Richmond as well. There was
Richmond City.
There was a machine error that caused a number of votes. At this point, all of the non-provisional ballots throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia have been counted. Is that right?
That's the understanding.
And not just Richmond and Fairfax, but the entire Commonwealth.
It should be.
Okay.
We're far along enough in the process that the only thing that should be outstanding are provisionals.
Okay, so 493 provisionals in Fairfax, okay. How many provisionals are there statewide? This could still swing the election.
There's not a lot left out.
Really?
A lot of other counties have already certified.
Including their provisionals?
Yes.
So who has left for provisional ballots? Fairfax, Richmond?
No, I believe Fairfax and Montgomery County, Spotsylvania County. Fairfax is the
much
big
more
one,
populous county.
The big one. I mean, nobody else, as I understand it, this is complete rumor, but I heard, for example, that Montgomery County had 30 provisional ballots in total.
Okay, and Spotsylvania?
And Spotsylvania like 7 or something. So it's us.
There's not 100 ballots outside of Fairfax County, provisional ballots yet to be counted.
Probably
you
not.
Don't think. And you don't think so either, Mark?
I haven't been following those issues.
Outside the county.
The vote isn't final until the county certifies, and they have till tomorrow to do that. It's a deadline.
Midnight.
So we will know
tomorrow
by Wednesday morning.
Midnight.
Yes.
So Wednesday morning, that will be the final certified count, and that will include all the provisional ballots.
Yes.
So I guess my question is, I understand Fairfax is the most populous county in Virginia, fair enough, but why are there so many more provisional ballots? Are there more per capita, more provisional ballots in Fairfax than other places in Virginia? Are there more problems in Fairfax? I actually read that there were some problems in Loudoun County on Election Day. I don't know whatever happened with those. Or do you think it's just a matter of the most populous county has the most provisional ballots?
I don't know.
Do either of you? Is Fairfax special? That's what I'm trying to
Well,
figure out.
we're always special.
Well, I know. But other than being the most populous county in Virginia, is there a reason why more people voted provisionally here?
Well, certainly with the absentee provisionals and the issues associated with that, we have a lot of folks in Fairfax who travel overseas.
That makes sense.
And so
it's a very, very sophisticated, very wealthy county. In the poorer or counties, you have less people who are traveling, who are foreign service officers, for example. So that would make sense.
Right.
For that.
We also have a diverse population here in Fairfax. Many people who come from countries where, and they might not have English as a first language, and sometimes these issues are associated with not filling out a form quite properly, and so these folks would have to vote a provisional so that those issues could be addressed by the board.
That makes sense. Folks, if you want to call in, it looks like we're not taking phone calls tonight, but we are allowing emails. Just send an email to insidescoop@nova.org, insidescoop@nova.org, and we will address if you have a question on the procedure, on what's going on in Fairfax County or throughout the Commonwealth in Virginia. If you want to know if your vote's being counted, please give us an email and we'll respond to you. We'll be right back with a special humor clip by Will Roberts right after this.
I helped turn my child's public school into a whole new kind of school. One with a curriculum that really motivates kids. One that has extended hours, 6 days a week, year-round. With loads of academic, cultural, and recreational activities. One that has support services like medical and dental right there. A school where parents' involvement is encouraged. Where teachers have more time to teach. And students are excited about learning. There's just one problem. My child doesn't ever want to come home. You can help turn your school into a community school for excellence. Find out how. Call 1-877-LOVE-TO-LEARN.
It's coming. Right to your neighborhood. And when it does, you may be surprised. It's your Social Security statement of your benefits, and it's going to help you plan your financial future. Your benefit statement will tell you how much Social Security you're eligible to receive and when you'll get it. Then you'll know how much you need to save for retirement, because that's coming too. The future is in your hands. Choose to save.
The toxic fumes from this meth lab are seeping into Jamie's sinus cavity. Ammonia vapors invade her throat. Toxic gases fill her lungs. Jamie's body is deteriorating. And she doesn't even know it.
Jamie, dinner.
So, who has the drug problem now? Find out how meth affects you at drugfree.org/.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Marc Levine. I'm here with the host of Inside Scoop Virginia, Bettina Lawton, and to her left is Mark Greidinger with the Fairfax County Democratic Committee. The election, if you haven't heard, for Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Virginia is not over. Yes, the voting casting is over, but the counting is not over. All of the regular votes have been counted. And as of this moment, as of this count, Mark Herring, the Democrat, is winning the race, beating Mark Obenshain by 116 votes. You might have thought he was going to lose when you went to bed on election night. He is ahead, but 116 votes, that is 0.005%. So the race could easily change. And, you know, they say every vote counts. Well, you never would know it more than now. There are about between 500 and 600 provisional ballots left to be counted, almost 500 right here in Fairfax County. And if you voted provisionally, if they said your regular vote isn't counted and they gave you a little green thing to fill in your vote and you stuck it in there, you didn't stick it in the vote counting machine, we need you to get your vote counted. You went to all the effort to vote provisionally. Take a little bit more effort, and you got to go down to the Fairfax County Government Center between 10 and 1 tomorrow. Do not be late. This is your last chance to have your vote counted. About 60% of provisional votes have been counted, but 40% haven't. And if you go down there and you tell them what happened, you're far more likely to get your vote counted. Remember, the race is 116 votes difference. This is your chance to affect the race. So, Mark, in terms of that, they're going to have to do another 180 tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Is that going to be problematic? I mean, you've got, these are the toughest ones. They've gone through 310 so far. Are they going to be able to get it done by midnight tomorrow night?
I think so. It shouldn't be any problem at all. The folks that don't show up, generally speaking, their situations are going to be voted as a block. So they will have all sorts of people who have similar situations. They'll be grouped together, and those people will have decisions made about them as a group.
Okay, so of the 180, you might have 40 that are overseas, 20 that are in some other situation and change precincts or whatever, and then down to they may be fighting over a few strays at the end.
And the reality is as well, although they have stopped hearing people today, they are still over at the government center. They are still working through the ones that you can decide based on.
So someone still could show up tomorrow and make their case.
Absolutely, show up tomorrow between 10 and 1 and make your case. That's your last opportunity. If you want to make sure that your vote is going to be counted, and this is an important election. We know what happens when you have an attorney general who does not share your belief system, which in our case, I think it's safe to say, Ken Cuccinelli did not.
Well, and Mark Obenshain has some pretty extreme views. We talked about it on the show just last week. Mark Obenshain, it's funny, you know, for all the horrific things he said about women, he wants to, at one time he had a bill to require every woman in Virginia who had a miscarriage to report it to police within 24 hours or face up to 1 year in prison. That bill got so much criticism that he withdrew it. But he also believes that there should be no abortions, even in cases of rape. So a rapist could literally force a woman to bear his child, and she couldn't stop him from doing so, or else she risked going to jail herself. Really horrific stuff, opposing birth control, and one of the most extreme things that got a lot of news on the late night was that he and other Republicans, including Ken Cuccinelli, voted for a transvaginal ultrasound, require any woman who has an abortion to have a metal tube inserted into her that served no medical purpose. And if that doesn't offend you, I don't know what does. I do want to show you, what I found interesting, though, is for all the horrors that the Tea Party ticket of Mark Obenshain and Ken Cuccinelli and E.W. Jackson had towards women, I got a lot more interest in the part that Mark Obenshain hates puppies. I mean, I love puppies too. I would think women are more important even than puppies, but apparently it was the fact that Obenshain didn't want to regulate puppy mills. They would stick 8, 10 puppies in a cage, so much so they couldn't even stand on the ground, just stuffed them in a cage, really horrific treatment. And I wrote an article about this, and I said, you know, if you hate puppies and love rape, this is your guy. And I got a lot of criticism for it from people who did not know that Mark Obenshain really didn't want to regulate puppy mills. He really didn't care that puppies were so mistreated. Anyway, Real Roberts, a humorist, has done a little video about the Tea Party in general and their, let's just say, their problems with the female vote. Because after all, it was women that put the Democratic ticket off the top, no question.
That's right.
I want to play that for you now. Have you comment on it?
Well, recently we had a handful of elections, not all over the country, just certain places. And some of the issues that came up or stuck out like a sore thumb were, of course, Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, or just the website. And, of course, women's issues, or better yet, issues that women are having with certain parties, like Republicans and the Tea Party.
There's a war going on here.
These two groups seem to think that they can tell women what they can do with their bodies. Now, I can tell you, I know a fistful of Tea Party folks, and I know you folks are saying that we need to get back to basics. I don't disagree with you. But if back to the basics means that men will be back to pulling women around by their hair, I can tell you there's two things you're going to be dealing with. One, women will probably start cutting their hair shorter. Go ahead, make my day. Two, most likely chase you around with the scissors. Now, I don't totally disagree with you Tea Party folks. I really don't. I believe that we should band together as a country, strengthen our people, not the politicians. But I will say that if you want to go back in time, we might have a problem, well, with excluding certain groups of people, like the gays, the lesbians, the blacks, the women, the list goes on and on. A word of advice to the Tea Party. Recent elections have shown that the preferred drink of Americans isn't black tea, it isn't white tea, it isn't green tea. No, it's diversity. And hey, I'm all good with starting another party. As a matter of fact, the Tea Party has convinced me to start my own party, the Toga Party. A loud bunch of folks that dress funny and, well, don't pay any attention to any of the rules. Wait a second. That's way too close to the Tea Party. I'm Will Roberts, and this is your weekly telegram. Whew, it's getting cold in here. I'm not wearing anything under here. It's going to be a really crazy party.
So that's Will Roberts' take on it. I wonder, given that there was another candidate the Republicans could have chosen, the current sitting Lieutenant Governor, Bill Bolling, a Republican, a conservative, no doubt, but not from the Tea Party wing of the party, and they didn't allow him to even run in a primary. They had a caucus where they sort of privately chose Ken Cuccinelli. I wonder if the Republicans tonight regret that decision. Do you think that it was the Tea Party nature of these three that has led to a Democratic victory? Either of you want to take that?
I can just tell you that I regret that decision because we need a vigorous Republican Party to keep us Democrats honest, to keep us Democrats focused on what we need to do. And the Tea Party is killing the Republican Party. It's very unfortunate. I'm delighted that it looks like we may sweep this election. But the longer this sort of stuff goes on, the more marginalized these people are. There's going to be a problem on our side, and the alternative on their side is going to be really, really scary.
Bettina, watching Will Roberts' piece, it made me think, how important was the women's vote to this election?
It was huge. The difference between, particularly in the governor's race, although in the lieutenant governor's race it was equally as important because E.W. Jackson was just horrifying on so many levels. But for Terry McAuliffe, he had a huge gender gap. He had a huge percentage of women more than Ken Cuccinelli. And this time the women got out. I mean, people have said, oh, there's a big gap between what women want and what men want on various candidates, and then it wouldn't materialize. It really materialized this time. And Terry McAuliffe really has the women to thank for being elected.
What was the turnout in 2013 as opposed to last gubernatorial election in 2009? I mean, I read it was much higher.
It is. It
was significantly higher. I mean, much more than the difference in growth in population. It was significantly higher.
Well, our turnout was so depressed in 2009. We had something like 33% statewide that turned out. And when the numbers are that low and the Republicans are so adamant about coming out to vote, the Democrats are going to lose. But we had huge numbers this year. And
did they? I think they were over 40%.
They were over 40%. In some areas, you had as much as 48% of the people voting.
Well, 48% is great, but last year, when Virginians elected President Obama, we were at, what, 60, 70%?
Right.
Close to 80 in Fairfax.
Close to 80 in Fairfax County. So there's still some work to be done to remind Virginians that we have an election every year.
And we do have it every year. And the difficulty, of course, with presidentials is everybody's interested in the presidential. And we've got a lot of folks, we call the folks who only vote in presidential year federal voters. Mm-hmm. And getting them interested in the local, which they really should be, because frankly, the presidentials are great, but it's these local elections that are going to say how much of the taxes you pay, whether you're paying taxes if you go eat in a restaurant in Vienna versus you go to Falls Church, whether your roads are getting paved, whether your schools are getting financed in 2015.
If you're stuck in traffic, that's because of your local government.
That's exactly
right. If your
right.
schools aren't good for your kids, that's your local government.
Right.
There's a whole bunch of things. One of the things that I'm curious, though, is actually, even if you want your vote to be counted, I mean, look, I'm not going to tell anyone not to vote in the presidential race. I'm going to tell you to get out and vote. But the likelihood of your vote making a difference, and whether President Obama or President Romney became president, was very, very, very small. We've seen from the Attorney General race right here in Virginia that your vote made a huge difference. I mean, this morning, Mark Obenshain was up by 17 votes.
That's right.
Today, Mark Harrigan is up by 116 votes. Tomorrow, it could be a 3-vote, 2-vote, 1-vote margin. Local races, your vote's actually more likely to count, to be important.
Well, it is, and there are some delegate races actually here in Fairfax County that were decided by 55 votes.
Wow.
And so it's a magnification. We had one delegate years ago who got elected in a recount by 1 vote.
1 vote.
1 vote.
Jennifer Boysko's race right now is very close, and it's possible that the provisional voting could affect it. And one of the things that folks who focus on federal issues need to be aware of is that even in states like Virginia, where a majority of people vote Democratic now, we only have 3 out of 11 congressional seats
because of how they draw the district lines.
And the people who draw the district lines are the people who are elected in state races.
State legislators, General Assembly, Senate,
right.
The House of Delegates. Where we didn't, let's face it, Democrats didn't do too well. I mean, we got really close, but I guess because the way they drew the district lines, there were like 6 or 7 races decided by less than 1%.
Oh yeah,
it seemed like
absolutely.
There was a huge number. Folks, when we come back, I want to focus on where we go from here. All right, we understand what's going to happen tomorrow. What happens a week from tomorrow? Could this race be determined in the courts in December? I think it well might. I'm going to get that, and if you have any questions, send them to insidescoop@nova.org. This is Marc Levine. Be right back after this.
Art, a universal language, an expression of culture, of self. And now, thanks to Empowered Women International, a way for emerging and established immigrant and refugee artists and artisans to find hope to earn a living while enriching the lives of all of us. Empowered Women International, making a better America every day. For more information on Empowered Women International's educational programs or to make a tax-free donation, contact cfripp@aol.com.
You'd think it would be easy to tell which kids have trouble with their eyesight. But that's not always the case. Even though 1 in 4 children may have a vision problem, eye doctors tell us the symptoms aren't always so obvious. We do know that 80% of all childhood learning is visual. And without good vision, kids can have trouble learning to read and may fall behind in school. For clues on how to spot the real-life signs of childhood vision problems and what parents can do, visit checkyearly.com. A public service message from the Vision Council of America, and reading is fundamental.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Marc Levine. Sitting to my left is the host of Inside Scoop Virginia, Bettina Lawton. Sitting to her left is Mark Reidinger with the Fairfax Democratic County Committee. So what I want to know is where we go from here. Bettina, you were telling me in the break about the people are being really conscientious about getting this right. One of the jokes that they were writing on the blogs was that there was a problem in Richmond with the machine. The Republicans requested them to look at it really carefully, and it actually ended up delivering 100 or so votes for Mark Herring.
Right.
But you're telling me that even if they hadn't requested it,
it would have been found.
It would have been found.
People are.
How are these mistakes found?
Because people are going back over the process. Election day is crazy, it's frenetic. By the time people are closing the polls, they've already been there. They show up, the election workers show up at like 4:30 or 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
It takes until 8 or 9 o'clock at night to close those machines.
It's the same people there all day.
It's generally the same people. They now have this rule that you can split a shift, but generally it's the same people. And they make mistakes. They transpose numbers. And that's a very common error that people make.
525, 255.
Exactly. And so people are being very careful, particularly now that it's so close. They realize that every vote can make a difference, so they're being extra careful, they're double checking, and it would have been found.
Okay, so every precinct in every county and city in the Commonwealth of Virginia has to get their numbers to the State Board of Election by midnight tomorrow night.
No, they already are there.
They're already there.
They're already there.
They have to get their updated numbers.
The Board of Elections all have all ballots. There is nothing left in the precincts.
Oh, there's no ballots left then.
On election night, that's what's taking them hours to do, is they're doing the paperwork, they're pulling the numbers from the machines, they're packing up all of the paper ballots.
Where are the paper ballots?
They're at the courthouse.
Of each county and city?
Each county courthouse has the ballots.
Has the ballots?
Yes.
Okay, and there are people at that courthouse guarding the ballots and...
considering, yes, our sheriff's department guards the courthouse, so we should be in good shape on that.
Okay, so they've all done their counts, and I mean, apart from, you mentioned Spotsylvania, and there was one other place, Montgomery. Apart from Spotsylvania, Montgomery, and Fairfax, have all the other counties and cities said, we're done?
I don't think that everybody has. There are miscellaneous ones here and there, but the vast majority of them have certified.
And in any case, everyone's got to be done by midnight tomorrow.
Midnight tomorrow is it.
So when we look at the website at 12:05 a.m. Wednesday morning, that should be the certified count?
Oh, you're so optimistic.
So what? Okay, all right, fine. 12 more hours later?
Yes, you should know.
Wednesday at noon, let's say.
Wednesday at noon, they should have had enough time to update the website and make sure that everything's been reflected.
But then, Mark, the process isn't over. When they update that website, now when does the State Board of Elections certify the count? Because I was reading it wasn't until like the 25th or something in November.
November 25th.
So what do they do? If everyone has to have their numbers by tomorrow, which is November 12th, and it'll be on the website by November 13th, what are they doing for 12 days?
Well, among the things that they'll be looking at is because the Attorney General's race is within 0.5%,
right,
there's likely to be a recount this time.
Right.
But it's very unusual that a race is flipped over as a result of a recount because these numbers have been checked and double-checked and triple-checked. Also, at some point, either before or after the 25th, one of the contestants may call for a contest.
Before I get to that, and I want to get to that, and we will have time to do so, but my question is, should the numbers change at all between November 13th and November 25th, and if so, how would they change?
Well, the county boards will have certified the numbers at that point.
They're certifying them tomorrow. They're going to be on the website at noon by Wednesday. Why would they change between the 13th and the 25th? They shouldn't, right?
They shouldn't, but that's what the law says. The law says the state board will meet, I think it's the third Monday or whatever the 25th
I mean, there'd have to be
is.
a pretty nasty transposition error or something. It's extremely unlikely the numbers will change between November 13th and the 25th.
Well, if you're talking about the website, those numbers, the unofficial results that are already out there are not accurate as it stands right now.
Well, that's right. But
and
that's why I said November 13th, Wednesday.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Wednesday to the 25th, they really shouldn't change much.
Assuming that the staff at the State Board of Elections doesn't mistype anything.
That would be the only thing that would change if the staff at the State Board of Elections mistyped something.
Right.
Okay. November 25th, State Board of Elections meets, and they say, we certify Mark Herring wins by 27 votes. I'm making this up. I have no idea, obviously. At that point, Mark Obenshain can accept it, and he loses, and Mark Herring becomes our next Attorney General, or he can contest it at that point by filing a lawsuit. Is that correct?
No.
No. Okay. Explain it to me.
My understanding is, and Mark, you probably know this better than I do, but someone asked me this today. My understanding is that the contest is actually filed with the General Assembly.
Huh.
Is that right?
That's
Did
correct.
I get that right?
It's decided by a joint session of the House of Delegates and the Senate in the state legislature.
Well, right now, the Senate includes both Mark Herring and Mark Obenshain. Do they get a vote?
That's a good question. But
they cancel each other out, so that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Does the Senate vote as a body and the House of Delegates vote as a body?
They vote as a combined body.
But there's more delegates than there are senators.
And more Republicans, way more Republicans than there are Democrats.
Well, what if the House of Delegates, what if the certified count says Mark Herring wins by 500 votes, and the Republican Assembly said, screw that count. We declare Mark Obenshain the winner. Would he win?
Well, you know, the Republicans style themselves as the guardians of the integrity of the vote.
Okay, now that's not my question.
No, I think it's very important. I think that there are honest Republicans, including the Speaker of the House, who could have really messed things up as far as redistricting is concerned this year. And I think that they would be ashamed.
Well, it would be an incredible stain on the Commonwealth of Virginia if there was no evidence that Mark Herring lost and they certified it. But so what happens? November 25th, the losing candidate files I don't even know what it's called, a contest with the General Assembly, not with the court.
The loser could file at any time.
Before the 25th?
Yes, the loser can file at any time.
Okay, there was famously a recount between Creigh Deeds and Bob McDonnell 8 years ago in the Attorney General's race that Creigh Deeds lost by 300 some odd votes. What happened in that case? Was a contest filed?
No, because you can't contest a recount. You can only contest the election.
Okay, now I'm completely confused. November 25th comes. What's a recount and what's a contest? What's the difference?
Well, as I understand it, and Mark, you know this better. This is what I was told this earlier today, is that if you go through the recount, the contest law doesn't apply. What you are contesting is something about the election itself.
So, Mark, do you get a choice between a recount and a contest, or can you do both?
I have no idea. I'm just
You're the lawyer here.
Nobody has done this. This is the.
Didn't they do that? They didn't do that with Creigh Deeds.
No, they had a recount,
but not a contest.
He lost.
Okay, explain to me what a recount is.
A recount basically is essentially just another canvas where they check and recheck the numbers just to make sure that everything is okay. They'll run ballots through the machines again to make sure that they were properly counted the first time.
So if the canvas is right this time, then the recount should change nothing.
Right. Exactly.
But the recount between Creigh Deeds and McDonnell changed, what, like 40 votes or so?
It's very small. They don't typically...
No, but if this race is within 40 votes, I think it was 30 or 40 votes. I know it was less than 100, but there was, I think, a 30 or 40 vote margin. So it matters then, not just for a Democrat that Herring wins, but that he wins by more than 3 votes. I mean, that he wins by 100 or 200 or 300 votes, because if he wins by 300 votes, there's less likely to be a recount, whereas if he wins by 12, there might be one.
He would have to win by over 20,000 votes for there not to be a recount.
Oh, because the recount's automatic. Doesn't losing candidate have to ask for it?
I think it may be automatic within a certain time, a certain percentage. Certainly the state pays for it.
The state pays for it if it's less than 0.5%. Right. But doesn't the losing candidate have to ask for it?
I don't know. Is it automatic?
Well, see, these are questions y'all need to look up and know. We'll bring you back. We'll bring you back next week with the answers.
The circumstances are that all of us have been working so hard just to get the individual voters informed about what their rights are and to get them
because
there for these
if you don't go
votes.
to the governing center tomorrow, you may lose your right to get your vote counted forever.
And here in Fairfax County,
that's the focus is for tomorrow. Right. We can focus on the rest 2 weeks from now.
Exactly.
I'll bring you all back. You're the experts 2 weeks from now, because really nothing can happen until November 25th anyway. I mean, the county boards are doing what they're doing tomorrow and Wednesday, but after that recount contest, neither of those happen until after November 25th.
The contest might start before November 25th is my understanding.
Right, but there's no reason to do a contest before you've done a recount, because a contest, you have to finance that if you're the losing candidate, right?
Well, if Obenshain had a theory that there was some horrible thing wrong with the way the election was conducted, then he might be able to...
But he hasn't presented that. Neither candidate. There's been no suggestion. And this is another thing that's important for the blogs, because every now and then you hear people saying, they're stealing our election. There's no evidence from Republicans or Democrats of any shenanigans, fraud, malfeasance from either side in this case. And that's something both sides agree on. We haven't even heard of any.
No.
The worst we've heard is, they took my chair, they took my desk. Right. We want this table, we want to put our signs on this table. But there's been no allegations of any misconduct regarding the vote count, which is really what matters.
I think the people who've been involved with the election on both sides, because there's Democrats and Republicans who are election officers, are committed to making the system work. And, you know, there may be some problems that we're not aware of at this point. We'll have to see. But at this point, it looks like this was an election that was conducted honorably and that we can have confidence in the results.
I'm glad to hear that, because I don't want Virginia to be called Florida behind its back.
Right.
So there are states that don't do this as well. I guess we can pat ourselves on the back to say that we ran a free and fair election and that the votes are being counted. But again, if you voted provisionally in Fairfax County and you haven't contacted these folks, one, you can contact them. Send an email to insidescoop@nova.org, and you can definitely reach Bettina. Another thing, you don't have to contact them at all. I don't care if you're a Republican. Whoever you are, if you voted provisionally, get to the government center tomorrow between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m., and your vote is much more likely to be counted. If you don't get there and your vote's not counted and your candidate loses by 1 vote, it's your own fault. This is your opportunity to participate in democracy. I want to thank you both for just the hard hours. I know you've both been working here. What are they like? It's been like from what, in the morning till, I mean, you've worked all weekend?
All weekend. We'll be back tomorrow.
What are the hours here?
We were working probably 10, 15 hours a day for the last...
That's crazy.
Since election day.
Well, let me just say, as an American citizen and a citizen of the Commonwealth of Virginia, thank you for the hard work that both of you and that everyone is doing to make sure that our elections count. Because if democracy means anything, it means that our votes are counted. And the hard work that you two do without pay, to be clear, is very much appreciated by me and should be by all the voters of the Commonwealth. So thank you both.
Thanks to you, and thanks to our volunteers especially for the great work.
That's true. And people can still volunteer to help out.
They can still volunteer. Call Fairfax County Democratic Committee.
All right, there you go. Or send an email to InsideScoop@nova.org. This is Marc Levine. Thank you for watching. We'll be back next week with another edition of the Inside Scoop.